Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, good morning if you're joining us from another part of the world. Welcome to our discussion this evening of the certificates in English literature and also the certificate in theatre and performance studies. My name is Jenny Bavidge. I'm the Academic Director for English Literature here at PACE, Cambridge. And with me are my colleague, Michael Early, Professor Michael Early. Do you want to say hello, Michael, so they know where you are?
Hello, everybody.
So we're joined by Professor Early, who's going to talk to us about the course Theatre Studies. And we also have some student panellists here, Amanda Govey and Mark Turner, who'll be joining us later, who are currently students on the course. So we have about an hour to go through some details about the courses, to let you know how they work, and then also to take lots of questions from you about any aspect of the course that you might be interested in finding out about. I've been teaching at PACE since 2011, and we've been teaching these courses in English studies for the same amount of time. Theatre and performance studies is a new and very exciting area for us, so we're really delighted to be able to talk to you about those courses this evening. I should just give a quick introduction as well to, as we're going to be talking about these three courses, the certificate, the diploma in English literature, and the certificate in theatre and performance studies. I'll let you know what those terms mean, what a certificate is, what a diploma is, and I'll give you some details about each course. But just to start us off with where we are and who we are, our courses are all coming from our Centre for Professional and Continuing Education, PACE, at the University of Cambridge. So we are a very particular kind of place in Cambridge. We're part of the university, and we are Cambridge's longest standing provider of part-time education. We've been in operation for 150 years, and we offer flexible, high-quality education to learners in all stages of life. So we welcome people from all walks of life, from different educational backgrounds and contexts, and from countries all over the world. We believe that as life continues, so does learning. We all can pick up learning at different points in our life and carry it through. I've recently been learning to play the piano, which I do very badly, but I enjoy. And Michael and I both know that from our classes of students who are our age or older or younger, that we bring together lots of different kinds of experience of life and also enthusiasm for learning. At PACE, we operate independently from the Cambridge College and school system, and that unique position allows us to access all of Cambridge's academic knowledge and resources, whilst also allowing a kind of freedom to uphold our core values of lifelong learning and accessibility, while drawing on that world-class education that Cambridge offers to all of its students. And we have a community of learners which is worldwide, so people join our courses from all sorts of different places. This gives us a really vibrant global community of learners, thousands of learners in any one year. They come in person for summer schools or weekend courses, or they meet us online for short courses or for the certificates and diplomas which we're talking about this evening. Whether people are studying purely for personal growth, so for enrichment or out of interest, or because they're pursuing a particular career goal, or perhaps because they want to take a break from whatever they're doing and find out about some other aspect of learning that they've only been able to touch on or perhaps pursue in their own time. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're always aiming to do. So that's a very kind of broad overview of what PACE is and how we operate. And so you know the kind of organisation that you'll be joining, part of Cambridge, but a very open part of Cambridge. Let me talk to you a little bit about these specific courses then, the courses that we run. One question that you might be having is, what does a certificate mean and what does a diploma mean and which one is right for you? Well, I'm going to quickly explain what those two terms mean, certificate and diploma, and then we can have a think about how you decide which one is the right for you. Which one is right for you. The best way to think about it is that certificates are the equivalent of the first year of a university degree. So that's sometimes described as level 4 learning. So if a university degree goes year 1, 2, and 3, we operate through levels 4, 5, and 6. But just think of a certificate as stage 1, diploma as stage 2. And we offer at the moment 2 certificates in English literature and 2 diplomas. And there's in theatre and performance studies 1 certificate in theatre studies. So for theatre studies, you have to begin at certificate because that's what we've got on offer. For English literature, you have a little bit more of a choice. So I'm primarily talking about the certificates in English literature when I think about what your choice might be. The differences between them are primarily that the diploma is has a little bit more reading attached to it. Maybe there's 3 novels to read or 2 novels to read rather than just 1, as there might be on the certificate. So the reading load is a little bit heavier. We tend to start with the assumption that students coming onto the diploma have some working knowledge of literary analysis and some terms, and some of the assignments are a bit longer. So it's a little bit more advanced, it's a bit more of a stretch. So if you're coming back to the study of literature after quite a long time away from formal study, or if you already have a degree but it's in a different, or other qualifications but they're in a different subject area, you might want to start with a certificate just as a kind of warming up, because we take things a little bit slower. We introduce lots of concepts to you. We introduce you to the idea of how to do literary analysis, how to do close reading. So if you want a gentle start and you feel like you need to either get to know get your muscles back in gear again to do literary analysis, the certificate might be the place to start. If you've studied English literature or any kind of literary subjects recently, and you feel like you know what you're doing, you know how to analyse a poem, you know where you are with how to get into a novel, then you might think about going in at diploma level. Both courses are open access, which means you don't need any specific formal qualification to take either of them. If you apply for the diploma, we might just have a conversation with you to see whether the diploma is the right place for you to come in. But you should rest assured that you will find a course which you can fit into, whether you start at certificate or diploma level. Both of the courses are entirely taught online, as is the certificate in theatre and performance studies. Both of them start in October, towards the end of September, October, and then they carry on through to May, June of the following year. So they're 9 months long. You don't, as I've said, you don't need any specific qualifications. You don't need any prior experience of studying literature for the certificate at our entry point. If you don't have English as your mother tongue, you might be asked to take a language test. So that's the only proviso to make sure that you would be able to handle the assessments, the assignments, and the discussions that we have in class. So that's the only entry point, if you like. If English is not your first language, you might be asked to prove language proficiency. And just to reiterate, certificate's completely open access. You can walk straight in. The diploma, we might just have a conversation with you about whether it's the right place to start. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about certificates and diplomas. Let's get on with thinking about which one or which course you might want to undertake. I'm going to talk a little bit about our English literature courses next year, and then I'm going to invite Michael to talk a bit about the theatre and performance studies courses. So next year on the English literature certificate, you will be studying 3 units. Each of our programmes, certificates or diplomas, is made up of 3 separate terms. We call them units, and the university, and we also know them as Michaelmas term, Lent term, and Easter term. Those are the ancient terms, ancient names for the terms at Cambridge. So in our first term, we will be starting with close reading and context. And that's a course which is designed to introduce you to how to read a text, whether that's a poem or a play. We look at some prose fiction, some novels as well. We actually start with quite a couple of really chunky texts. I ask you to read Hamlet and Oedipus Rex. So I begin with some really big hitters. And that's partly, I think, because if you can read those 2, you can read anything. So it's a good place to start. And also because I want to get people's ideas going about structure in literary form, and particularly the structure of tragedy. And so after studying that beginning, so thinking about how we understand plots, how we understand what tragedy is and what structure is in a literary text, we can then move on to thinking about how other forms of interpretation might work. My colleague Polly comes in to teach a class on poetry, and she looks at decoding poetry, how to get into a poem, how to understand what it means. And then we look at a collection of novels. We look at Frankenstein and a novel by Angela Carter called Nights at the Circus. And then we move on to think about other texts that we might bring our interpretive eye to. We look at Henry James and Alan Hollinghurst's novel as part of a study of the novel as a whole. So it's quite a broad-ranging course, that first one, looking at both poetry, plays, and novels. The second term is entirely devoted to drama, and my colleague Andy Wimbush teaches this course on Samuel Beckett and modern drama. There's Samuel Beckett gazing out at us with his remarkable face and reminding us of the challenge and difficulty and wonder of his plays. So Andy takes students through a whole series of plays by Beckett, looking at Beckett's Waiting for Godot, Endgame, Krapp's Last Tapes, and so on, and ending with some more contemporary playwrights who've responded to some of Beckett's aesthetic and formal challenges. From those plays, marked perhaps by brevity, challenge, and strangeness, we move into the rather more solid and realist world of the 19th century novel. And I come back at that point to take you from Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey all the way to Bram Stoker's Dracula. And they might seem like very strange novels to have next to each other on the bookshelf, but we will travel all the way through the 19th century to explore the journey of the novel through that period and its remarkable advances, its revolutionary force and power in that period. We do quite a lot of contextual work, thinking about how aspects like the coming of the railways or political changes or the status of women and how it changed in that period, how that affected the novel too. Meanwhile, over in another Zoom room, my diploma classes are establishing themselves in a different sort of light. They're beginning with a course on poetry, contemporary poetry, again taught by my colleague Polly Poulsma, Dr. Poulsma. And Polly looks at contemporary poetry from the beginning of the 20th century all the way to the contemporary work of spoken word poets like Holly McNeish and Kay Tempest and Benjamin Zephaniah. She studies the roots of poetry to where it's gone now. I come in for the second term to talk about literature and place, a wide-ranging course that looks at eco-critical approaches to literary work, from romantic poetry through some 21st century novels which deal directly with climate crisis. And we also look at some London works as well. I'm very interested in London and how it appears in novels and poetry. So we do a week where we look at Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway and Samuel Selvon's amazing novel, The Lonely Londoners. And if that's not enough novels for you, for the diploma course, in the modern novel appears in the third term to allow us to do a deep dive, a kind of matching of what we did with poetry in the first term with prose. So now we're looking deep into how the novel has progressed through the 20th century from modernism to postmodernism. So these are courses to do if you really love reading. I often think that the people who come to do these courses in English literature are the people who at a book club always want to keep the conversation going when everybody else has veered off to just gossip about the neighbours or the children, or they just want to drink wine and eat chocolate. My groups of students are people who would want to come on a Saturday afternoon and talk about the texts, discuss them, think about them, and get into them in real detail, and then enjoy the process of writing and analysing them for themselves. Where do you go after the certificates? Well, you can progress on to the next round of certificates and diplomas. So if you complete the certificate, you can do the next one. If you complete the diploma, you can go on to the next diploma. So you can get a whole 240 credits. Each of these courses is 60 credits. You can get a whole 2 years at certificate level, 2 years at diploma level, and then you can think about what to do next. You can stay at pace with us and do our level 6 advanced diploma, which leads to a specialised dissertation in a topic of your choosing. Or if your particular aim and desire is to get a BA in English literature, a full degree, you can take our credits and transfer them to the Open University and take their final year in English literature, and that will allow you to take a full BA. The BA would be from the Open University and not from Cambridge, but underneath your BA from Open University would be all of the units that you'd gained at PACE Cambridge. Or, of course, you can go and study at another university. Some of my students who've finished these programs have made successful applications to do a full BA at Cambridge. You have to start at year one again if you want to do the full undergraduate English literature course at Cambridge, but some students have successfully applied to the mature colleges at Cambridge and gone on to another 3 years of study. Others have gone on to postgraduate study in other universities, including the University of Edinburgh, the University of Exeter, and still others have gone on to related study at PACE. So they've veered off to become creative writers or historians, and also become people who study theatre and performance studies. So at that point, I'm going to hand over to Michael and ask him to describe his course, the Certificate in Theatre and Performance Studies.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you so much. That's really exciting because we're at the beginning of the journey that Jenny mapped out for you if you were interested in English literature. So we're at the very start. We're only at this level, a certificate. And we'll probably move on from here to another certificate, as Jenny described. So we'll go from 60 credits to a full 120 for students who want to stay with it. A diploma is probably somewhere off in the future for us. But this is an exciting departure for not just PACE, but for Cambridge University as well, because there is no undergraduate study of theatre and performance study at Cambridge, nor indeed is there that kind of study at Oxford University. Most drama is often studied within the literature department, as of course Jenny has outlined. Some of the work that's done in the English certificate will also study drama as well. But we've taken the decision here to really locate this course entirely in the world of theater. So this is a course that's ideal for anyone interested in plays and dramatic literature, theater history, acting, performance, directing, theater design and production, theater management, and more. So we really are interested in attracting students who have a wide range of interest in all aspects of theater. And the course has been conceived to try and match those various interests as well. We're very lucky in that we have a wide range of students in this first year of the course. We have students from their 20s all the way up to their 80s. So we have a really, really interesting group of people. Very, very international group as well. And you're going to meet one of them this evening who lives in France and is currently in Spain at the moment, who will describe her experience on the course. But it's really no barriers to learning. We also have students on the course who know nothing about theater and have taken a number of certificate courses at PACE and are now just adding this to their portfolio because they enjoy this method of learning. So you can either be interested in theater and know quite a lot about theater and even have perhaps even some professional acting credentials in theater, or you can know nothing. And I think we try and gear the course for that wide range and cohort of students. This is, as I say, the first course of its kind. And as a result, we've tried to draw on the best areas of theater studies as a new discipline, a fairly new discipline that has really started at university level. It didn't start really until the 1990s and has progressed through the early part of the 2000s and up till now. So it's a very exciting area. New things are being discovered, lots of young academics and young scholars involved in it. So we've tried to match and mix really interesting profiles in terms of the material we look at and also the people we attract to lecture on the course and the people, of course, who we read. In October, we start the course, as does the English course, and we start with a module called From Text to Performance. Unlike literature, it's, of course, only concentrating on theatrical texts. But like literature, we do our own form of close reading, but we call it dramaturgical study. So we learned how to analyze a play from the point of view what you would see on a stage. When we break it down into the playwright's thinking about how they use space, how they might use acting, how they might use action. And we start our study, in this case, with the ancient Greeks, 5th century BC. So we look at classical tragedy, and the play that we begin with is Antigone. And we not only look at Antigone then, as it might have been produced in the Greek theater and how the Greek text translates into English now, but we also try and look at different forms of Antigone and how Antigone has been interpreted and reinterpreted, not just up to now in the modern world, but in many, many contexts and in many, many places. Because our form of analysis also tries to look at world drama. We try and move away as soon as we can from a Eurocentric idea about drama and look at how drama places itself in other parts of the world. From Antigone, we move on to Shakespeare, and some people have asked whether we do cover Shakespeare, and like English, we do cover it also in this module from text to performance. We look at Shakespeare's As You Like It, one of his great romantic comedies. From there, we move on to the 19th century and the wonderful world of Anton Chekhov, which defines in many ways what a modern play is. And in that case, we look at The Three Sisters. And from The Three Sisters, we move into a more immediate and contemporary context, and we look at the work of Carol Churchill, one of Britain's most celebrated writers, and we look at her play Top Girls. There's a reason, of course, why we are looking at plays that feature women. And they just don't feature women in most cases, but they feature obviously men and women. But we really follow the drift of Antigone and the journey of Antigone through these other characters. And there is quite a resemblance and quite an interesting line of development. So that's our first term together. And then in January, or over what we call, as Jenny mentioned, Lent term, we move on to Module 2, which is Performance Theories and Practices. And that's where the first cohort is at the moment. They've just coming to the very end of that term of study. And in this week, we really now start looking at all the theories of performance in terms of acting and directing. We start with ritual and work our way through various permutations of how the actor comes into being and how the director comes into being. And that takes us really across a wide range of ancient, modern, and even what we call now postmodern practices. So always we're working from the past to the present, the one reflecting on the other, finding those contexts, as we said earlier, in as many world and international contexts as we can. So that takes us instantly into the final term, which will be coming up in April. And we look at theater technologies and modes of production. In this unit, we are really looking at the whole idea of making, how plays are put together on the stage in three-dimensional space, how space is used, how theater design is used, how lighting is used, how theater technology changes, how it's gone from the world of gaslight to the world of the analog to now a very new kind of digital world where almost anything is possible on stage. So we'll be exploring all those areas. We'll also look at the practicalities of putting on a play from a stage management point of view. And we'll also look at theater management because some of our students actually work in that area at the moment, and some actually might even be thinking of careers in that area as well. So production and producing will also be talked about. In that third unit, I will have taught the first module. My colleague Stefan Aquilina will have taught the second. And in this third module, we'll be bringing in lots of voices, lots of practitioners who share with the group their experiences and talk about the professionalism of craft. So it's about a lot of the ways in which different craftspeople work. All of these modules together are all set out to develop you as a thinker, as a researcher, as a writer, and as someone who might be exploring theater and performance, not maybe just out of curiosity and interest, but also looking at this as a world in which you might want to find a career. And we're graced in this first cohort of students with playwrights. We have people who've worked in the theater in the past, have been on stage. We have people who are currently producing and working in areas of theater management. We have people who've started theater companies. And in the final module on theater technology, we give you the opportunity, if you want, to take on the challenge of writing your own kind of manifesto about the theater of the future. And although this is an academic course and we take the academic side of it very, very seriously, there are different forms of learning that we built into it that might make it a bit different from courses that are largely reliant on the critical essay. There are critical essays here too, but there are also exercises in the first term on dramaturgical reading, how to read a play dramaturgically and respond to it. There's also ways in the second module in which you'll be doing your own personal presentation, which you'll record as part of an assignment. And in the third module, you'll also be doing some design work, designing scenes and doing some aspects of theater and, if you want, lighting and technological design. So there's a lot of ways in which the doing of theater enters into it. Well, we haven't fully built into the course yet, but I suspect from what students have asked for, there'll probably be a bit more of acting online as well. So that's something to look out for as well. So it's really an exciting thing. And because students are coming to us from different parts of the world, there's a different kind of shared experience that happens in a course like this that doesn't happen in a purely British academic course. People are sharing different ideas, different values, different experiences. So all of that is really contextualizing the theater in the most international ways possible. So I think that's it from me, and I'm going to pass back to Jenny, who'll take it to the next stage.
Thank you so much, Michael. I feel quite keen on doing this course myself now, having heard you describe it like this. I need to learn more things about theatre. Just a quick word before we talk to our student representatives to see whether all the claims that Michael and I are making about our courses are really true. I just want a quick word about how we teach them, because you might be thinking about how you're actually going to access all of this interesting stuff. We give you a course guide which outlines all the reading and all the sessions for the entire year. And in that, you'll find the set readings, some of which are going to be literary texts, some of which might be pointers towards critical works and dramatic works in the case of the certificate in theatre and performance studies. There are also forums where it's possible to have conversations between classes. And then we have assessments at the end of each term. So there are different moments where you're going to be working quite hard, doing your essays or your assignments, your exercises, and then times when you're going to be reading, exploring, and in conversation with the rest of the class. We record quite a lot of lectures for you to watch whenever you're ready. It depends on the course and it depends on the tutor, but generally tutors record some introductions to the subject and some pointers for you as you're getting your reading done. And you can watch those before you meet for the live sessions. All the courses, certificates and diplomas in English literature and the certificate in theatre and performance studies, meet on Saturdays. And we meet at different times during the day, but we generally have two sessions of about one hour long with a break, and then another hour, a longer break, and then another set of 2 hours. So we can cover a lot of material on those Saturdays. We also have additional informal open sessions where people can come along and just chat or ask the tutor questions about their assignments and so on. If you can't make all of the sessions, that's fine. We record them. So if you are ever doing something else on that Saturday, or you have work commitments or caring commitments and you can't quite make it, then you can watch them afterwards. So you can keep in touch with what your classmates have been doing in your absence. One great advantage of doing these courses, and I think it's almost a case for doing them at all, is that you get access to the University of Cambridge's prodigious online resources. That means that you have access to lots and lots of electronic books that you can read in the safety of your own home. Also, lots and lots of online journals, which would otherwise be behind paywalls. So you could download yourself a whole library of things to read during the time that you're on the course and keep that once you've left. You can, of course, also, if you come to Cambridge in person, you can use the libraries in person. So you can go to the English Faculty Library or to the University Library and sit in the rather splendid reading rooms and enjoy yourself there if you're local to Cambridge or if you're coming for a break to our city. And you are as welcome there as any student in the university. So I hope you would be able to make some use of some of those in-person resources. But if you can't, you've got this mighty archive that's just there waiting for you to dive into it. So that's how we teach. And I think at this point, it might be, now that Michael and I have had a good go at discussing everything with you, I'll show you what it would look like if you were in a class with me having a lecture. You'd have accessed this lecture, this recorded lecture, and I would be talking at you. You might want to skip ahead if I get a bit boring or put me on double time. But the lectures are one way to get in touch with everything that we want to teach you. The other way is in these seminars that we have, which are largely conversational. So it's not just about me telling you what you need to know about Romeo and Juliet or about Hamlet. It's also about the conversations that you have with your fellow students, with your peers in the room. And we think of those seminars very much as collective responsibilities. We really want to hear from people about their experiences of reading the texts. So given that, I think it might be useful to turn at this point to our student representatives and ask them how they have got on this year with this experience of being with PACE. Amanda and Michael, maybe you could talk about theatre and performance studies first.
Great. I'd like to welcome Mandy Govan, and can you see Mandy? Yes?
We can see you.
Great, good. Mandy, welcome. Thanks very much for coming. Mandy lives, as I mentioned earlier, in France, but she also is traveling at the moment, so she's coming to us from Spain. Mandy has had a very interesting background, probably the kind of background that would be attracted to a course like this. But I think too, Mandy, you might just talk about what the learning journey has been for you, because that was something I know that you were a bit concerned about as you started the course, as I think many people would in similar ways.
Yes, certainly. So I left education at 17. Luckily, I was going into work in theatre, which is my passion, but nevertheless, I did stop education at 17. And I have to admit that this is my return to study, first time returning to study since then. So pretty long time. And I was concerned about it. I really didn't know what to expect. And now I'm very, very grateful that I'm here and I took the plunge and I'm doing this course, which I'm finding thrilling, exciting, and I don't want it to end. I feel like it's going to be too short. So I was concerned, but I think the most important thing for me is I've found the environment incredibly supportive in all aspects. So from an administrative point of view, it has been very helpful to have people in the PACE team answering questions on email, extremely responsive. Michael, yourself being incredibly open and responsive and welcoming and really setting up a very encouraging and welcoming environment for study. And also the study support team, particularly David Galbraith, who helps people like me who are perhaps concerned about coming back to study, who haven't studied for a long time. And there's a whole support network that really I've felt incredibly supportive and has been incredibly helpful. So on that front, I've learned a huge amount about study, and I'm really enjoying having the opportunity to kind of touch base with something on a more academic level than I've ever experienced.
Thanks a lot, Mandy. A lot of people, I think, who are watching and listening tonight probably have concerns about how this fits in with their time, because I know you obviously have a home life. You also work with people and in dance where you live and do other kinds of activities. So how is this fitted in to what you do?
Incredibly well. In fact, because I think it's a very supple environment, as Jenny was describing. We have videos, the texts are available online, and really you can do it in your own time. I mean, I study every spare minute that I have because I'm enjoying it so much, and I think it's quite addictive. You know, once you get into the digital library, it's hard to leave. And really, I think that you can study the minimum that you'd have to study. Obviously, you have to be in touch with your core texts, and you want to have read those for your sessions. But other than that, you can read as much as you like. Obviously, you could go on forever reading because there's so many tempting things to read. But what you need to do really to enjoy the course is manageable and minimal.
Yes, and I think people, another thing people might have concerns about is the Saturday sessions, which are stretched over 4 hours, a session in the morning, a lunch break, and then coming back together again. Do you find that overwrought or too long or hard to get through?
Personally, no, because to me it's so engaging. The sessions are very lively. They've been incredibly dynamic. Some of the acting techniques that we've looked at and reading text together, you know, has been very animated, and it's amazing how you can feel connected even trying to act on Zoom. It works incredibly well. So I've been really surprised as well by that, and I think it can work really well for theatre studies, surprisingly.
Yeah. Do you get the chance to interact with your colleagues, students much? Do you have
Yeah,
conversations outside of class? This is one of the things we try to encourage.
yes, we do. We have a WhatsApp group now. I think it took everybody a little bit of time to kind of warm up and get to know each other. But I think that's perfectly normal. And I think we're quite connected now. The acting sessions that we've been doing and using smaller breakout rooms have given people a chance maybe to get to know each other a little bit more intimately. And so now we're, you know, chatting and sharing on WhatsApp together. So.
And I think final question. I think you're as you said to me. I think you're really keen to look for another stage of this course to develop, aren't you? Or more opportunities to perhaps study courses on a short-term basis related to drama and theater studies.
Yes, I'm looking at what I can pick up next. I'm hoping possibly because I think there's a creative writing and writing for performance. I think that's a diploma. So I'd definitely be looking to what I could go on to next, and waiting for your good self, Michael Early, to produce a diploma in the next stage of theatre studies, because I'm going to miss it very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mandy, for taking the time to join us this evening. I'm going to turn back to Jenny now, who's going to introduce one of her students, Mark.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mandy. So, Mark, yeah, if you'd like to step from the shadows and unmute yourself, as we do so carefully on Saturdays. Mark has undertaken one certificate. He's now studying the second certificate. Mark, what made you carry on from one certificate to another?
Well, it was very enjoyable. It was very involving and uh, stretching and satisfying. So it's not always bed of roses every single minute of the journey, but similar to what Mandy was saying, by the end of the course, I couldn't envisage not doing something similar. And you explained that it was half of a equivalent to half of a first year undergraduate course, and lo and behold, the other half was available the following year, this year. So it was an easy decision.
What were the non-bed of roses bits? What have been the more challenging bits for you? Feel free to say anything you like. I won't mind.
Well, at times there's quite a lot of reading. So unless you are very disciplined, you can end up with some crunch points. And some bits of the course, and it will differ for different students, are genuinely hard to grasp fully everything that's going on. So second term of last year, we tackled Beckett, who was wonderful, but really quite tricky from a standing start. So I can't think of anything that was bad, but inevitably you have bits that you get more out of and bits that you feel a little bit more lost in.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. And just as a last thing, I think your background's in science, isn't it? So how did you find moving from one way of thinking about the world? And I know some of your peers were in education, or they worked in marketing, or in kind of commercial environments, or all sorts of different backgrounds. How did it feel suddenly plunging into this world of literary discussion?
Well, part of the reason why I did the course was to go back to something that certainly academically I left a long time ago, back at school. And I've always been a reader and I've carried on reading, but I sort of had a bit of an itch that I wanted to scratch in terms of going further. And it was tricky to shift gears, and I think I'm still learning the scientific approach, which was quite a long time ago as well, is perhaps a bit more constrained, and you have to follow a particular pattern. And one thing I'm still learning is that although it's not entirely a free for all, the academic criticism, there's a big onus on being creative with it, and I'm sort of learning where the boundaries are and what forms and structures are appropriate, and where to flex and where is maybe inadvisable territory to go. But in general, it's not massively different.
Great, thank you very much. Well, I'm sure we'll want to hear from you more when we get into more questions as well. But thank you both, Mandy and Mark, for the moment. I've got a couple of last couple of slides of information to give you all before we jump out and take some more questions. The first thing to mention is our early enrolment benefits. So this is if you are able to, if you've decided you want to do any of these courses and you definitely want to jump in and get enrolled, if you enroll before the 30th of May 2026, you get a special reward, which is £150, which you could spend on lots of poetry books or play texts, which is issued to you as a reward after you're completely enrolled, after a successful enrolment. You can combine that little sweetener with any other eligible concessions and bursaries. So if you're getting a bursary for the course, or if you have a concession and if you're not sure whether you are eligible for any of those, please see our finance pages, which will explain everything. So that's just an extra reward for early enrollers. And early enrollers also get access to a few interesting things. You get access to our virtual learning environment, or VLE, where there are study resources and introductions to the subject. You get an early opportunity to connect with your peers through some engagement activities which PACE will be putting on. There are going to be talks from academic directors and selected bite-sized lectures which you can have access to, and you'll get early access to the University of Cambridge library and a college and a library guide to explain how to use it. There's also going to be some free short online courses available via partner organisations, and you can get study skills sessions with our study skills advisors if you're feeling a bit nervous or trepidatious about coming back into study. So these are all useful little enticements for you to enrol early. Of course, once you enrol, whether you enrol before the 30th of May or afterwards, you will also have access to the university library and all of those things too. So those are the early enrolment benefits: course discount, study skill supports, peer engagement, and starting towards building that community that lasts on your own course and amongst other learners at PACE. Next steps from here would be to contact enquiries at PACE with any questions that you might have about applications. You can contact us with your subject-specific questions too, and you can enrol directly from the website course space. Our helpers in the chat will be putting in that enrolment space that will the link to enrolment there. So those are our next steps. I think they'll also put the enquiries email address in there too. For now, I'm going to jump out of my presentation so that we can all sit comfortably together in our space and take some questions which might have come in, so that we can see anything that we need to discuss and we need to address. We've got a few questions which have come in from joiners, so people who've joined us for this particular moment, and we've also got some questions which we've had from which we've been given from earlier on. So one question which came up was, even though the course is online, will we be able to use Cambridge University Library? And I hope that I've given an adequate enough answer to that yes, you would. You'd have access to the online library. And then if you can come to Cambridge in person, you will also be able to go through the gates of the university library and sit in the reading rooms and use the books on the shelves.
And I guess that also means, Jenny, they can use the English library, the very good English library, which is wonderfully specialized.
Certainly, you can use the English faculty library, and it's worth mentioning that the university library is a copyright library, and that means that it has a copy of everything that is published in the UK and Ireland. So you should be able to get hold of just about anything. There's also the rare books room. So if you want to look at play scripts or texts from previous centuries, you can have access to those as well. So there are ways into all sorts of little specialized collections that the library has. I've also been asked whether when information comes out about the courses themselves, so how you know about which literary genres you're going to be studying or where Shakespeare might come in, we'll send you the course guide for the whole of the course once you've enrolled, so that you can see everything that's coming up, so that nothing will come as a surprise to you. You'll know what you have to read and when you have to read it by. Michael, I've got a question which you might be able to address, which is particularly about theatre studies. Somebody's asked about what actually happens in the theatre and performance studies live classes. So what it is that you would be talking about, what it is that you'd be discussing. I think you've talked a little bit about that, but maybe you and Mandy can sort of describe how a usual class goes in theatre and performance studies.
Sure, Mandy. How? I mean, there are obviously different tutors have different styles, but maybe you could talk about how we've handled it. Because I tend to teach in a seminar fashion, so I treat our Saturday sessions together as wide-ranging seminars in which people get a chance to say a lot of things. But Mandy, you might want to react to how that's comes across.
Yeah, so I think in the first term we were perhaps doing more of a deep dive into text, and we were looking at things from a dramaturgical point of view, and we were discussing our ideas and impressions from texts together in forums as we were going through. I think it's this second term that we're just finished, which was on performance and acting techniques, when we've been looking at Stanislavski's work particularly and the role of the director. We've been practicing some acting techniques live on Zoom. So that's reading scenes, taking the role of the director and trying to organize a scene somehow, some improvisation that we've done over Zoom, and working in small groups and discussing what we think plays about. We also looked at Strindberg's the Father, which is a deeply psychological play. So we were grappling with the themes, big themes and emotional themes. So it's very, very broad, different ways of working. I think it's been very varied.
And where we can too, we offer lots of videos, and this is another way in which the library has been quite helpful, because they subscribe to a lot of platforms that contain an awful lot of surprising material that we can draw on and use for examples. So we can compare and contrast, for instance, different versions of Antigone, which is a terribly interesting exercise, and get people talking about it, arguing about it, favoring one over the other. And we can use that, again, that international perspective, because they're not just British directors that we look at. So it's really, really another element that adds to the liveness of it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's interesting. And Mark, we tend to sort of start with the text and then work our way through it. We often look at bits and we practice our close reading by looking at sections in some detail, don't we? So we might have a great big novel like Middlemarch, or a great long play like Hamlet, and we kind of take things out and look at them in more detail. I think that's the way we generally organise our sessions.
Yeah, and I think one thing I would say is those Saturday sessions are certainly for me the best bit of the course, because you really get the opportunity both to be helped through the understanding of a text by very good faculty, but also you're working with a group of people who are very supportive. It's very diverse, lots of range of backgrounds, etc., and it's genuinely humbling. I always come away having learnt an awful lot.
Grand. Oh, I'm really glad to hear that. That's good. And like you say, a couple of other a couple of us have commented on this already, but there were some questions that we had as well about who can come to the courses. One question was, do we accept folk in their 60s? We certainly do, and in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. So, and beyond, if you were fortunate enough to be over the century, you would still be very welcome in our courses. We do take students as well who are 18 and over. So sometimes we've had students who come. So if you're watching this and you're just finishing your A levels and you may be taking a break between sixth form and university, or you're still not quite sure what course you want to take, you are very welcome to join our classes too. You would be in a more mixed classroom than you maybe have experienced at school, but you might find there are some real advantages to that. One really lovely thing I think both Michael and I would say about our classes when we have people like Mandy and Mark in them is that everybody who joins really wants to be there. You know, people are making significant commitment of time and money and of precious time, and so they come to our classes really ready to go, really ready to discuss and to make the most of the opportunity. So although there's a little bit, like Mandy suggested, a little bit of kind of settling down, getting to know each other, working out how the Zoom room is going to work, generally they are very friendly sessions. And so if you feel like you've maybe, like as Mark was suggesting, you haven't quite got something, you're not quite sure what to make of a difficult text or a difficult idea, or you haven't had much time to do the reading that week and you're feeling a bit rushed, that is okay. You will not be put on the spot. You won't be asked questions you can't answer. Nobody is here to test your learning in a kind of aggressive way. We're here to draw it out of each other. I think that's true. Michael, you haven't ever shouted at anybody in a class, I should imagine.
No, not no, I haven't. And people have been very generous. There are some people who do like to talk, of course, and we allow them to do that. But I think everyone gets a chance to say what they want. We do go around the room sometimes and do ask other people who have been a bit quiet to maybe contribute as well. It's that reflective thinking in public that I think is such a great part of this online experience. Nothing could be better than what we're doing here and joining in a room. So in our world, at least my world, and we learned this during COVID, we could create drama studios online. So we try to give some aspect of a drama school experience in the theater and performance studies course.
Thank you. Yeah, Mandy, come on in.
I just wanted to add that I've not had any sense of competitiveness at all. You know, the only person is a very personal experience, and learning, and it's broad. And I've learned about my, being online, about using a computer, about essay writing, academic study, and without any kind of sense of competition apart from with myself.
And in one of the people in our cohort who we love has taken at least 5 certificate courses across a broad range. He has had no theater world experience at all. He has a law degree. He has a PhD in a totally different area, and he's just loving it. So we really can, people do come to it from different things, but they find new skills because he also, I think he works professionally helping people with presentations. So that's one of the byproducts of this kind of learning.
Yeah, that's great. And we do, yeah, there's people do join us with all sorts of kinds of expertise. This is, you have to work very hard as a teacher of adults, of lifelong learners, because you can't get away with anything because people have lots of knowledge from the real world. I can't claim things about the way that 19th century mines worked, for example, because there'll be somebody in the room who knows more than I do about it. So we do a lot of learning from each other. I've got a few practical questions which have come up, so I'm just going to answer those swiftly. Someone has asked how many hours per week. So the live sessions take place every 2 weeks. So there's these blocks when you would be with us, and people do join us from around the world. So it is at different times of your day, depending on where you are. So for us, it's on Saturday afternoons, but if you're, as one questioner is, 8 hours behind in Canada, you might find yourself getting up a little early for those sessions. I have some absolutely heroic students who get up in the early hours of the morning from Australia or from the States or from other parts of Europe, an hour or two ahead of us, who stay up maybe a little later into their Saturday evenings. But again, as I said, if you ever can't make a class, you can watch the recording. There's also a question about how many study hours a week. Well, I think if you were to try, I might ask Mandy and Mark about how many hours they give it a week. I would say that you probably need somewhere between 6 and 10 hours a week. Maybe, and that might be a little bit more when there's the live classes are on, but it's, if you think about having to read maybe a novel over a couple of weeks or read a couple of plays, you want to be able to have a few hours to be able to read those with some degree of calm and enjoyment. And then when it comes to writing your assignments, you're going to need a good stretch of hours to be able to do justice to your ideas by having space to work with them. Mandy and Mark, do you have a rough sense of how many hours you spend? Mandy says it sounds like you have to stop yourself from putting too many hours in.
Yeah, yes, I mean, I'm quite lucky. I do have quite a lot of time, but I'm a little bit chaotic, but I think I probably am studying about 10 hours a week. So I'm reading, I have something I read when I go to bed at night, and then I'm having more focused study of, blocks that I try and stick to, a couple of hours of reading. And I mix it up with watching videos or finding interviews to listen to and podcasts. So if you get a little bit tired with reading, I switch on to something else.
Thank you. Mark, do you have a rough estimate? I know it's hard to say because sometimes I'm making you read Middlemarch and sometimes it's some poetry, so it will vary the amount of reading that you're doing.
Yes, I think I would say the sort of standard does depend on what the 2 week block involves in terms of the core reading. Generally, there's probably a couple of online lectures which are sort of maybe 45 minutes an hour. And generally will be asked to think about specific aspects of the text for the seminars on the Saturday. So it's usually what you said. The one thing I would say, and sort of echoing some of the other comments, the assignments you do need to leave quite a bit of time. I suspect I'm not as productive as I could be. It's a learning process, but that you need to leave quite a bit of time for the assignments.
Great. Well, we're at the hour, so although I'm sure we could keep chatting and might be other things to explore, we had better pause there. Thank you so much for coming, everyone, and particular thanks to Professor Early. Thank you for being here, and also particularly to Mandy and to Mark for giving up your time to come and represent your student peers, and to our returning students and to our new students. We hope that we'll see you in September for lots of reading, lots of interesting conversations, and continued and lifelong learning with us. Thanks for being with us. We'll finish up here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
Good night.